Today we have the ready to race motorcycle with us, the KTM Duke 390, and let's quickly check it out. So the heart of this motorbike happens to be a 373cc single-cylinder motor which produces 42.9 bhp at 9000 rpm and 37 Nm of torque at 7000 rpm. The gear feels slick to shift and it also gets a slipper clutch, but it isn't that smooth as you would expect from its rivals, even though the clutch is on the lighter side. The braking setup comprises of a 320mm disc at the front and a 230mm rotor at the back, and both are grabbed by the bi-brace sourced calipers. And the performance offered by this bike feels definitely punchy, and the acceleration is very brisk, and at the same time it is very refined and smooth, and the power delivery is very linear. And also this bike loves to redline, and the amount of grunt offered by this motorbike is really impressive and definitely feels peppy. The suspension setup is really nice in this motorcycle, and the shock absorption tasks are handled by 43mm WP Apex upside down forks with open cartridge system at the front and a preload adjustable monoshock at the back. The setup feels firm and confident and inspiring in the corners. And you can actually feel a lot of wind blast on this motorbike since there is no windscreen on offer like what it is available on the RC390. This bike gets a ride-by-wire throttle which is again available on the RC390, and the opening, closing and modulation of the throttle is wonderfully smoothened and it gives you a lot of confidence in the power delivery. And speaking of the power delivery, the peak power is concentrated at the mid-range between 4000 rpm to 8000 rpm, and there's one less tooth in the sprocket which gives a slightly higher top speed, and the top speed of this bike happens to be 163 km per hour. And another fact to be noted is that this bike has been nicknamed as the corner rocket by the KTM, and it is no surprise that this is a dynamite around the corners, and the suspension, chassis and the tire sync together to work around the corners. And once again I definitely have to admit that this bike feels very punchy and aggressive to drive, and the mid-range is the strongest part of the power band, and there is no doubt that this is a ready to race and a fun to drive bike. And the brakes of this bike is very sure-footed and offers great stopping power. And this bike is very practical and feels so light. The KTM Duke 390 was the motorcycle that set new standards on what could be expected from a single-cylinder motor. The wheelbase of this bike has been shortened by 10mm when compared to its predecessor, which makes this motorbike easy to twist and turn in the traffic. And this bike is really easy to maneuver and manipulate, making it a great handler. And this bike has switchable ABS, and there are 3 modes on offer: the off, the road and the supermoto. And the off mode turns off the ABS, and the road mode turns on the ABS, and the supermoto is a special mode of which the ABS is on only at the front and turns off at the rear, which lets the rider to have a lot of fun. And this bike has been provided with Metzeler M5 tires and offers superb grip. And the curb weight of this bike happens to be 163 kgs, which is 10 kgs heavier than the older Duke 390. And 0 to 60 comes at in 2.75 seconds, and the 100 km per hour mark comes at 5.9 seconds, which is blisteringly quick when you compare with its rivals. Let us hear the exhaust note of this bike. The split headlight of this bike looks like an inverted pitchfork, and the aluminum column which runs between has a heat sink which dissipates the heat generated by the electronics, and it gets all LED units, and the attention to detail is simply amazing. And at the front you get a WP Apex upside down forks with open cartridge system and a preload adjustable monoshock at the back. And this bike gets a chiseled trellis frame which has been modified for the new 390, and it has been bolted onto a subframe. And the fuel tank of this bike is made up of steel and has a capacity of 13.5 liters. And one main update is the color TFT instrument display that can be connected to your phone via Bluetooth and also can control audio and phone calls. So the heart of this motorbike happens to be a 373cc single-cylinder motor which produces 42.9 bhp at 9000 rpm and 37 Nm of torque at 7000 rpm. The KTM Duke 390 was the motorcycle that set new standards on what could be expected from a single-cylinder motor. And the KTM Duke 390 has the same aggressive styling which is inspired from the bigger 1290 Super Duke. The motorcycle looks appealing and it is one of the most desirable products in the segment. The build quality feels pretty decent, but it is not the segment leading. There is a small change in the seating position. The seating position is a bit higher and the foot pegs are farther back, and the seat height happens to be 830 mm, which short riders may feel that a problem. And the ground clearance happens to be 185 mm, which is very well sufficient for our Indian roads. And the KTM Duke is sharper in design, looks more aggressive and definitely feels eye-catching and gets a lot of new features for a slight increase in the price. Yes, this bike is priced at an ex-showroom of 2.5 lakhs and it is definitely value for money. So that's all everyone. If you like this video, you know what to do. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. See you guys in the next video.